Alien was kinda mid. Welcome to Scythe Reviews. My name is Scythe, and today we are talking about Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus is the ninth Alien film that is in the franchise if you include Alien vs. Predator movies. It is also the first Alien movie I've ever seen. And plus, I had to watch this twice because the first time that I had to watch it to make this video, I got so much of the information wrong, I had to go back and watch it again. But this time, the second time, I made sure to pay attention, so I even took some notes. And those notes are what we are going to be going through today. First, I'm going to give you guys a spoiler-free description of the movie. If you haven't seen Alien Romulus yet, I do suggest that you go out and see it. So the basic description is that these space colonizers come face to face with the most threatening thing in the entire universe, that being, if you haven't guessed already, the alien, after scavenging what they think is a lost ship that is uninhabited. This is a sci-fi thriller, sci-fi horror, whichever one you want to categorize it. Also, I recommend that if you do go see this movie, see it in D-box seats. The D-box seats are the ones that move around. It's actually really fun. Now that we got that out of the way, time to go into spoiler territory. I may or may not be talking about some things that spoil this movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. From this point on, spoilers. I'm excited to go back through these notes so that I can kind of think a little bit more about what I wrote down. First, I want to start out by saying that the scenery, the sets, how everything was built looks amazing. Space looks amazing. The setting for the ship looks amazing. The setting for the planet that they're on before they leave looks amazing. Whoever did the set design and the scene design is just, mwah, it's wonderful. So in the first part of the movie, we meet our first two main characters, which are going to be Rain and Andy. Rain is basically looking for a way off of the planet that they're in so they don't have to be stuck there and constantly working all the time for the company that they work for. Unfortunately, Rain gets told that she does not meet enough quota or enough hours that she's worked to be able to leave, so screw that. Company comes first, I guess. So she's really upset. She's really upset for Andy as well because she's basically taken a maternal figure kind of deal over him. She doesn't have any parents. Their parents died, unfortunately, so it's just been her and Andy. Right after this, we immediately meet the rest of our cast. As far as the acting goes, the acting is decent. I feel like they all did a very good job acting. As far as the characters go, the characters are all pretty much just stereotypes. So we already talked about Rain. Rain is very much maternal figure, and that's pretty much all she is. That's her whole personality, pretty much. She just cares about Andy a lot, and she wants things to go fine. Rain is also a fast thinker. She's not smart, but she's a fast thinker, if you get what I'm saying. Rain is also what I noticed is supposed to be this new movie's Ripley. We'll talk about that more later. Next we have Katie. Katie is what I called throughout the movie pregnant lady, because that's pretty much all that she's good for, is that she's pregnant, and that's all the movie wants you to know, is that she's pregnant. It does come back around in the end, but literally that's just, she's pregnant. That's it. Next we have Navarro. Navarro is that one who's supposed to be cool-ish, but they don't develop her at all. She's the pilot of the ship, so she knows pretty much that, but she doesn't do very much else. Next up is Tyler. Tyler is very much the handsome love interest to Rain, even though it goes nowhere. And lastly, in this group of ragtag teenagers, we got Bjorn. Bjorn is your stereotypic asshole character. He's just an asshole kid. He also absolutely hates Andy because he's artificial. Andy's not human, he's an artificial guy, and this just makes Bjorn hate him so much. Andy don't deserve it. Out of all of our characters that we have in the movie, Andy is definitely my favorite. And that's mostly because I just don't care about anybody else. In fact, the first time that I watched this movie, I actually hated all of the characters, except for Andy. On the second go-round, I got to, pay attention to what they're talking about a little bit more, and I got to see their emotions and stuff for different scenes, so I like them a little bit more, but I don't like them, you know? Moving on to this plan that they had. So the plan that they developed for the idea of getting off of the planet that they're on and not being stuck working like their parents are, I understand why, but taking a ship that is a very illegal action and going somewhere that you think has cryopods for you to sleep in for 9 years. No? The plan was a shit plan from the start. Tyler had a shit plan from the start. I don't know why Tyler thought that this was good. And really, the whole reason that they even brought Rain along or invited her to go with them is because they wanted to use her brother. So, shitty group of teenagers comes up with a shitty plan that ends up being shitty because it doesn't work. So they get to this so-called ship that they were looking at, and it's not a ship, it's an outpost that's been completely abandoned and only has 3 hours before it hits an astro belt thing, a space belt, and, like, completely blows up. 2 times does the plan go awry, and yet Tyler just keeps pushing to do this, to get the cryopods, that everything will be fine, and they'll be able to successfully get to Ivara, the planet that they're trying to get to. This bothered me a lot, because, like, now I really don't like you. The characters I just did not fall in love with at all. I could care less about them dying. Which, being an alien movie, of course that's what happens. A lot of them do die. We also find out why Bjorn hates artificial people and why he shits on Andy so much. His mom was a miner, and she was in the mines doing her job with 2 other miners when something bad went awry, and androids basically sacrificed those 3 people to save a bunch more. So he's mad that his mom died and blames all of android kind for it. But he is just, like, over the top asshole to Andy. Minus points for Bjorn. I don't like you. Aside from the characters, there are a few things that I did notice on my second run watching the movie. There are definitely a lot of references to previous movies, and also what I didn't expect was the video game. Alien Isolation is an amazing game. It's one of the best horror games that I've ever played. I do still plan on beating it one day if the alien ever forgets my move pattern, because it's gotten to a point where now she knows, like, every place that I am. And I hate screaming and terror, so I don't play it anymore. But there actually were references to the video game in the movie. There were 2 times at least that I counted where you could find an emergency station when something bad was about to happen in the movie. And I guess other people noticed this too, but whenever I would play Alien Isolation and I would see those emergency save stations, I always knew something bad was gonna happen. Saving in a game is basically, you know, it's an event, it triggers something, you know something is going to come after a save point, because you know that you're not just saving for no reason. So seeing the emergency stations in the movie was really cool. Next, moving on to Rain is made immediately unlikable whenever you find out that she lies to Andy. Andy eventually throws an insult back at her later in the movie, but she doesn't tell Andy that he's not allowed to come with them to Ivaga. This is where Rain's stereotype of being that mom type, that maternal type, comes to go against her. She is too protective over Andy. There's being protective and there's having a protective character, but then there's just making that the only characteristic in your character. So progressively throughout the movie, I just stopped liking her. Andy, however, Andy gets so much better. Andy gets an upgrade in his, disc thing, I guess that's what you can call it, which basically upgrades his AI, and he's really the only reason that Rain is pretty much surviving. He pretty much always knows the best way to get out of places, and he knows how to save Navarro whenever she's stuck with the facehugger on her. Upgraded Andy is so freaking badass. There was also another thing that I noticed about a death scene. Bjorn's death is actually foreshadowed whenever he first gets on the ship and picks up this little electric stick. The electric stick actually ends up getting him killed, so I did think that that was pretty cool. Also, some of the actions that the characters do are just a bit iffy. Like whenever Tyler, Bjorn, and Andy are stuck in the cryo lab with the facehuggers, and Rain and Navarro go onto the ship to try to find a way to rescue them. Navarro just seems more enticed with playing around with the little x-ray machine rather than, you know, trying to go get their friends that are trapped in a cryo lab. More about the characters being unlikable. One character that I haven't mentioned, though, is Rook. Rook is an artificial from the original Aliens. He is portrayed by Ian who has unfortunately passed away, but the director and the crew did get his family's permission to be able to use Ian's face for this movie. How can you make the scenes and the sets look so good with CGI, but you can't successfully put somebody's face over a robot? Rook's CGI looks so bad when he's speaking. You can definitely see his mouth glitch out a lot, and it was very unsettling, which I guess it's supposed to be. He also doesn't play much of anything in this movie. I mean, he tries to convince some of the people to do what's best for the company, but really, he's not there a lot. Rook just isn't necessarily a good villain for the movie. It's just weird that you wanted a character from the original movie and you took somebody who wasn't alive anymore, and instead of giving them this legacy role, you kinda just made them half of an android. But I'm sure it was nice to be able to see him again. So, as far as talking about Rain being the new Ripley of this movie, in about the second half of the movie, they definitely start pushing her hard as the new Ripley. She's the last one standing, and she basically goes out of her way to become a badass and is trying to save Katie and save Andy, but I don't know. They even do a side-by-side shot of the original movie whenever Ripley is like having the alien all up in her face. It's the same shot. But with Rain's personality and the fact that she is kind of just one stereotype, it doesn't work. I don't think that you should be striving to have a second Ripley or a new age Ripley. The whole fun about having an IP and being able to progress the story and have sequels and more movies in a franchise is to introduce new characters with new personalities, not to create old ones. We have the old ones for a reason. We have them to look back to whenever we want to wonder how the new characters are going to act. And then progressively towards the end of the movie, they just pushed and pushed harder. Speaking of the old movies, I mentioned how that there was references to the video game earlier, but there's a difference between a reference and a carbon copy of a throwback. Having little nods to your movies in the previous franchise, like just an object sitting on a counter or even words written on a hyperlink. You can do that without including literally every notable reference that everybody knows from the previous movie. Like, immediately, we get the chest burster. Navarro has the chest burster come out of her, and that's how we get one of the aliens in the movie. Andy says, "Ripley's lying, get away from her, you bitch." That's another cool reference. The chest burster and the line is a cool reference. But then there start becoming more and more. There's what I mentioned previously, the side-by-side, literal exact scene of the alien getting close to Rain's face, to Ripley's face. The dead alien hanging from the end of the movie in the first one is the exact one. A whole-ass character from the original movie still being there. You can have references, you can have nods, but this just kind of feels too throwbacky. Like you're trying to recreate the original. I just feel like there could have been just slightly less of that. There could have been more originality. Just a few more things that I want to discuss. The special effects. Special effects in movies I pay super close attention to. I am absolutely a fan of if you can do something practical, do it that way. And I was very glad to see and hear that everything that they could possibly make practical, they made practical. Most of the aliens were practical, and all the sets and stuff were practical. All the blood and gore and stuff like that was all practical. As somebody who still indulges in special effects makeup every year or so, I love this. The special effects was great. The designs for the creatures were great. The alien is spectacular. It looks wonderful. Even that CGI baby alien thing looked really cool, and then whenever they decided to make the grown version of it, the design of that was amazing. Giving rounds of applause and standing ovations to everybody who worked on the makeup and costume team. Now that we are at the end of my notes, kind of, which is pretty much the end of the movie, the last thing that I want to address is just the jump scares. The scares at the end of the movie got kind of cheesy. Also, it kind of felt like it ran on a bit too long. It felt like they wanted to end it at the scene where Katie gets put into the cryo sleep chamber, but then they just kind of forgot she was pregnant and they were like, oh, I guess we have to do something with this now. All in all, I did find the story at least interesting, if not, kinda boring at times. But I do still think the movie is kinda mid. I'm just very glad to see that it wasn't bad. Everything that comes out nowadays is either a sequel, or it's a remake, or it's attached to this universe, and you worry sometimes. But I did enjoy my time seeing Alien both times. I did see the in D-Box both times, so I got the same experience, so I wouldn't mess this up again. And after all of that, my final review of Alien Romulus, my rating is going to be a 6 out of 10. What did you think of Alien Romulus? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you feel it's kind of mid like me? Also, let me know what movie or video game you want me to cover next. Go check out my previous review, my first review, which is going to be on the movie Oddity. If you like scary movies, that's definitely one to check out. Also, I do sometimes do theme park stuff, so if you want to go over to Scythe Universal, you can check that out. Go ahead and follow me on all of my socials. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie and video game reviews. My name is Scythe, and thank you for watching.